that's always the thing that drives me crazy about people that jump right into the UFC. Like, I mean, not to pick on CM Punk, but the idea that CM Punk with no competition experience whatsoever is going to fight professionally in the biggest organization in the world, it's a little offensive.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because here's a guy that has no competition experience whatsoever, and he's going to fight someone who legitimately, in Mickey Gall, is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, very good on the ground, good stand-up, tough kid, has fought amateur, has fought professional, and has a wealth of martial arts experience. It's contrary to everything anyone has ever learned about learning and teaching and getting better at martial arts. You don't just jump into the deep end of the pool when you're not some physical freak like Brock Lesnar or something like that. You know, you're talking about a guy who's a good athlete. I mean, CM Punk is, but there's nothing unbelievable about him. He's not some freak of nature. So I would think that if this guy really did want to do this and do it the right way, get him to go through it the right way, like everybody else would. Get him to start at small organizations. Get him to learn martial arts.
So whose fault is that then? Is
no
it
one's
CM's fault?
Yes.
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Whose is it?
I don't agree.
Whose is it?
I think that CM Punk is a genius for saying I could make $1 million on this and go fight somebody. When
Is that what he made?
Could have.
Could have.
50,000. He'd never fought in his life. I paid $500 to
But he was
fight my
already
first
wealthy.
5 fights. Right. This is my point. This is exactly the point I'm getting to.
Right.
He was already famous. That's what the fight was for him.
But do you think that it should be approached that way?
No.
No.
But
I don't either.
It's going to keep happening. That's what the UFC, to an extent, is promoting.
Right. Because they're promoting promotion.
Not
big
who deserves
big events.
and not how good you are.
Right.
If you really look at what sells, Dada 5000 and freaking Kimbo Slice had record sales on these weird things.
Yeah.
And it's like, what sense does that make? Is that fair? Is that right? No. Is it selling? Yes. Why are people buying it? Because they understand it?
But wouldn't you think that once you're already wealthy, like CM Punk is, he's already a millionaire, wouldn't you want to do it correctly rather than go for the big cash grab that's going to wind up getting your face punched in? Like if he was your friend, let's put it this way. If he was my friend, I know exactly what I'd tell him. You got to learn how to fight. You got to learn how to fight the right way. You got to learn how to fight like everybody else does, slowly and surely. You got to train with the best people in the world and learn from your ability up. Don't pretend you're already there. Don't jump right into the UFC with a mean face on. That's fucking crazy. You're going to get smashed.
And I respect you because you said that to Brandon Schaub. And
well, Schaub, it was also an issue of him being a very good friend of mine, and also
like
me
you said,
knowing.
A friend. That's what you say to a friend.
Yes.
You tell the friend the truth. You don't just yes man him.
I knew how many times he'd been knocked out. I knew how many times he'd been knocked out in football. I knew how many times he had been knocked out in the gym, and I knew he was having issues. And I knew he wasn't able to take a punch like he used to anymore. And I also knew that he was also had a way out with podcasting, and he was being really successful in it. And he had a foot out the door. He already had a foot out the door.
Yeah, and that's you being a good friend. So all I'm saying is it's proof that you would say that. That's proof that you're following through with what, and that's rare in people.
But I would never stop CM Punk from competing. What I would say is, hey man, have a fucking jiu-jitsu match. Right. Have an amateur submission grappling match. Have an amateur kickboxing match.
So why do you think he did it?
Let's start off because he got a fuckload of money and because he thought he could do it. Because he's a strong man. He's got a strong mind. He's like one of those straight edge guys that thinks he could just get a hard work pays off, and just went out there. And he's a huge celebrity. And he felt like he was just going to ride that to a new career in the UFC. And I'm like, that's like saying you're just going to jump into NASCAR and you've never raced a car before. You're going to wind up dead.
Well, that being said, then the only logical thing has to be the money in that decision for him.
100%.
Money
and delusion. Delusional thinking.
What's the delusion?
Thinking that he's going to beat a guy like Mickey Gall. It's delusional.
You think he really thought that, though, more
that
than
he could beat
wanted
him?
the money?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I think he thought he could beat him. I think he thought he could. Look, he was training. He wasn't training to lose. He wasn't training to be 100% defensive. He stepped forward and threw a wild right hand. He didn't dance around the outside and try to avoid him. He tried to win. He stepped towards him and he got taken down immediately and then got mauled. You've seen what it's like. You know what it's like when a guy has very little ground experience, how long it takes before they actually become competent.
I watched that fight, so I already knew that was going to happen.
Of course. You knew it was going to happen. Yeah. As soon as he went to the ground, you knew exactly what was going to play out, right?
But you said it's almost offensive. I remember you saying that. And it's like, how could, who is it more offensive to, us as the fighters, or is it like I don't know if I should be more mad at Mickey Gall for thinking he can do it, because that's in every single one of us to think
Not
we
Mickey
can
Gall.
do something.
Not
I'm
Mickey
sorry,
Gall.
not Mickey
CM
Gall.
Punk.
CM Punk,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Is it his fault that he believed that he could do it to an extent? Does that make him that delusional that every man on earth thinks that they can go in there and fight and win? Or is it the UFC that says, yeah, we'll give you this much money and give you a pay-per-view and put you at the top of it, and let's see how much money you can generate.
Well, it's a great move for the UFC.
Right.
Because the UFC is like, look, hey, we got this huge superstar, and we're going to send him in with this fresh-faced young whippersnapper who's a good fighter, who's got a really good mouth, great at talking, and he's going to fuck him up for sure. Like, this is great. And what do? They made a
Right.
hero out of Mickey Gall.
Exactly.
And then when it's Mickey Gall goes, he goes, Sage Northcutt, I think you're fucking corny.
Takes another one.
And then takes him out too, and chokes him out in his next fight. I mean,
know, and
Mickey
I
Gall's
love
a
it.
goddamn genius. What he's done is beautiful. So in a way, the UFC's done a beautiful thing, because they go, oh, you think you can fight in the UFC? Well, come on in. Have a seat. Can we get you something to drink? Hey, come on.
And that being said, for me, it's not offensive that CM Punk went in there and did it.
No.
It's offensive, like, I guess, how, depending on who you are, it's like, it's not offensive, but it's crazy how you start to realize in those scenarios that it doesn't matter how much time, skill, or purpose you put into this craft. It matters how famous you are, or else you don't get paid.
In a way, yeah, you're right. In
And
a way, you're right.
this is my issue. It's not who's wrong, who's right. It's you don't need to train and be the best anymore. In fact, that has a tiny, eensy-weensy, tiny little bit of how you make money.
I don't think that's true. I think that is a factor, and that factor is compounded if you're a great shit talker. The point being Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is not just a fantastic shit talker.
No,
he's a world-class fighter.
Fighting, yeah.
Bad motherfucker, and he's capable of knocking people out with one shot. I mean, that is something people they're so excited to see him. They're paying money to see him.
He's
he's
different. We're
Right.
talking about somebody on a different level than CM Punk.
Well, Ronda when she was in her prime.